Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. Now we're still sticking with the President's visit to the United States, and let's take a closer look now at today's meetings and resolutions. I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by our former ambassador to Zambia and Malawi, Ambassador Folake Marcus Bello. Thank you so much for joining us on the news at 10.
Thank you.
It's been a busy day for the President. He's had that interview with CNN. He's spoken with the U.S. Secretary of State. Later on, there's supposed to be a town hall meeting. But do you think we're leveraging on all the meetings that he's been having beyond the euphoria of being invited and being there and seeing the way it's all going? Are we leveraging on this new relationship?
Time will tell. The relationship is not new. It's just that now America is throwing its weight behind Nigeria because according to what President Obama said, that he sees in our new president a man of reputation, a clean man who America is ready to work with. I think the visit is more or less an encouragement to Nigeria, an encouragement to our president. And it is coming at the right time, considering the fact that everybody said he's been so slow, you know. But
Even though he says it's too early to judge him?
No, apart from that, I think we're beginning to get the result. For once, the president is not making any noise, he's not talking, but we're beginning to get snippets of his activities in the press. And obviously, this visit, America being the world leader, will also encourage other countries to want to help Nigeria.
Okay. Well, looking at what he has spoken about in terms of his priorities, he's talked about security and finding the Chibok girls. Are you as optimistic as he is in that regard? Not
really. I'm one of the people who wonder at this optimism of finding the Chibok girls. Everybody goes on as if the girls are locked up in a room, being fed, being groomed, being looked after, and one day they'll open the door and say, oh, come on, girls, go home. In Nigeria, unfortunately, we don't have DNA analysis, we don't have thumb printing, so a lot of things that can help to determine if the girls are still there are not there. Since the girls went missing, a lot of young girls have been bomb carriers, so we don't know if the girls are being used. I am of the opinion that we're not going to ever find the girls together. Maybe 1, 2, 3, but to think that they are in a room waiting to be rescued, I doubt it very much.
Perhaps they're privy to information that we don't have, and that's why they're as optimistic as they are, that they will locate, if not all of them, some of them.
I think the important thing is to give the parents and all of us a closure. Do you know? Like in other countries, when crime is being investigated, they are not optimistic that definitely the end result will be so welcoming. But the most important thing is the closure. If a child has died, if the Chibok girls are missing, it's important to know that, look, your child is dead, one is missing, one has been found, da-da-da-da-da. But for us to keep hoping that all the girls that have gone missing are just going to walk out, I think Nigeria should concentrate on closure. We want to know what has happened. We know the beginning of this, we'd like to know the end. That is more reasonable, in my own opinion.
Let's look at some of the figures that are coming out of some of the meeting, the $2.1 billion that the World Bank is going to now offer to us. I mean, it's being dangled as some form of help to us. Are we going borrowing again? Is that the best way that we can get ourselves out of the crisis we find?
Well, for me, I think it's very sad. Because going by what the statistics say, Africa holds 60% of the world's resources. And all the time, we keep going cap in hand. When are the African leaders going to realize the power that lies with us? You know, even where the developed countries are coming to take our resources, they still make us feel as if they're doing us a favor. The African leaders need to wake up. Hopefully when Nigeria, we're big enough, we have the aggression, we have the capacity, we have the economy. Hopefully when we are able to tackle corruption, then we will be the voice that Africa requires.
Are you saying it's wrong for us to go with a shopping list or with a list of what we are expecting from America?
Oh, we don't have a choice now, because I think top priority for the president, they haven't discussed it openly, of course, is the fact that America must start buying Nigeria's oil again. The prices are sliding, and the important thing is that 95% of Nigeria's revenue is from oil. We are still hopeful that we'll be able to develop agriculture and develop other sources. But right now, 95% of us, between 75 and 95% of us, is oil. So we don't have a choice. Yeah. We still have to go cap in hand. And I sincerely hope that until we're able to sort ourselves out with agriculture and other resources, that America will have pity and buy our oil to increase the prices so we can survive.
So at that point, we're going to have to leave it. Thank you so much, Ambassador Folake Marcus Bello, for joining us on the news at 10 tonight. Now, in a separate interview with the Voice of America's Channels correspondent Pt.2, President Buhari explained why he has moved the nation's military intelligence unit to Borno State, and he said it was the most practical approach to curbing the group's activities.
We have changed the commanders. New set of troops are being trained, and the joint multinational joint task force, comprising of troops from Chad, Niger, Nigeria, Benin Republic, would be deployed in the theater of operation. So really, this is the practical and the realistic way the problem can be faced.
Well, Nigeria and the United States have traditional ties in oil and gas, and this relationship, which has been widened as a result of the shale gas production in the U.S., has left Nigeria in search of new buyers. Now, as President Muhammadu Buhari's state visit to the U.S. enters its second day, there are high hopes that this relationship will be revamped. Channel's business correspondent Temple Lashaju reports.
Nigeria's multi-billion-dollar oil industry is the most significant economic relation that ties Africa's largest economy to the world's #1, the United States. But the two countries aren't equal when it comes to oil production. The United States produces almost 10 million barrels per day as of June 2015, while Nigeria's output fluctuates but reported 2.4 million barrels per day as of March this year. The discovery and production of new shale gas in the U.S. has further widened the gap. However, the United States was Nigeria's traditional and #1 oil importer. But that is now history. Available data shows a steady downward trend, now nearing zero, of America's appetite for Nigeria's crude oil, leaving Africa's largest oil producer scrambling for new buyers, largely from the Asian continent. On the flip side, Nigeria still depends on America for its massive imports of finished petrol products. Figures show America's share of petrol exports to Nigeria at about 51,000 barrels per day in 2014. A small share, however, considering Nigeria's daily total petrol consumption, estimated at 40 million barrels per day. But with American oil companies such as ExxonMobil, Halliburton, Hardy Oil investing and operating in Nigeria's rich upstream and downstream sectors, and Nigeria looking for new oil buyers and investment capital, the oily relationship between Abuja and Washington is definitely not coming to an end anytime soon. Temple Ashaju, Channels Television News.
All right, now to discuss Nigeria-U.S. oil politics, I'm now being joined in the news at 10 by the Managing Director, Cowrie Asset Management, Mr. Johnson Chukwu. Thank you so much for joining us on the news at 10 tonight.
My pleasure.
Okay, we're beginning to see some concrete figures coming out of this American visit. We've seen the $2.1 billion talked about in terms of aid to security. Not much has been said about oil politics. How should we be bargaining right now?
Well, when you talk of oil politics, you have to look at that the economic environment, the oil political environment has changed drastically with the advent of shale oil. And you find out that you guys have always strived to become energy independent. And gradually they are moving towards that. So we have to recognize the fact that the dynamics of our trade with you guys has changed. If you cast your mind back, in 2008, total trade between Nigeria and US was $42 billion. In 2014, it was only $9.7 billion. From a surplus of about $34 billion in 2008, Nigeria had a trade deficit of $2.2 billion in 2014. So that means the size of our trade with US has actually dropped by about 80%. So that means that in terms of economic significance to Nigeria, US had dropped in the scale of preference or scale of importance. And as it stands today, Nigeria has to look at how do we relate with US. US is no longer a major trading partner to Nigeria. Like I said, from a trade volume of $42 billion in 2008, $42 billion, we only managed to do a total trade, both import and export with US in 2014 of $9.7 billion.
Let's look at it in terms of barrels per day, because sometimes that's how it makes more sense to some people. Looking at in 2010, we're importing 1.02 million. And then looking at that figure now, less than 1% of our crude is going to them at the moment. My question is, what can we do beyond saying, yes, we're happy to have this new friendship? It all boils down to how we're going to sell our crude.
Well, I think we should look beyond selling our crude. Like I said earlier, the U.S. has always strived to achieve energy independence. Today, you have a lot of drilling activities, and you also recognize the fact that technologies are actually improving. The technological means of extracting oil from shale formation, that is hydraulic fracturing and horizontal drilling, is improving on a daily basis. So the U.S. will continue to extract oil at lower cost. And then you also look at the advancement in other aspects of technology. You are not talking of green energy. You are talking of battery cells for powering of cars. And those technologies will continue to improve. We are talking of wind-powered energy
what about
sources.
the other countries that are influenced by the U.S.? If we can't make much, leeway in terms of what they've been able to discover, what about the other countries that are influenced by them? How can we leverage on this relationship for them to see us as viable business partners? Yeah,
I think that's where we should be heading to. And the question is how do we build an economic environment that will encourage Nigerians to export goods to the U.S. and other countries? If you catch your mind, in 2000, the U.S. came with African Growth Opportunities Act. Nigeria took very little advantage of that act. And that act was supposed to encourage African countries to export, particularly textile goods and some other goods to America. Why did we not take advantage of the African Growth and Opportunity Act? Because our textile industry had died, because we lacked the infrastructure to support it. The first thing the government should be asking, the president should be asking the U.S., just like we are talking about the World Bank support of $2.1 billion to the Northeast. How do we get the American Agency for International Development to support development in Africa? How do we get U.S. Exim Bank, in case their charter is extended beyond 2015, to support infrastructure development in Africa, in Nigeria in particular? For instance, if you look at places like Burma, the highway in Burma that was built in the 30s was financed by the U.S. Exim Bank.
All right.
We should be talking of encouraging such cheap funding sources to support infrastructure development that will catalyze economic growth.
Managing Director, Cowrie Asset Management, Mr. Johnson Chukwu, thank you so much for joining us on the News at 10 tonight. Now, all Nigerians with ill-gotten wealth stashed in the United States will soon feel the full weight of the law, as the American government has accepted to recover all stolen money in countries in which they have jurisdiction, including the U.S. itself. The United States has also offered training to the judicial staff and prosecutors in order to place Nigeria in a good position to uncover proceeds of corruption. Details emerging from the meeting between President Muhammadu Buhari and the United States Attorney General Loretta Lynch on the subject of support for the war on corruption in Nigeria indicate that the Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty signed between the countries in 1985, which came into effect in 2003, will be given some teeth. Now, when the News at 10 returns, students of the University of Benin protest the killing of two of their own in a motor accident on the Lagos-Benin Expressway. We join us.